Hey everyone, and welcome. When you think about 19th century literature, I bet one name in particular pops into your head. But what if I told you that one of her most innovative contemporaries has been almost completely forgotten? Well, today, we're digging up the story of a forgotten romantic, Walter Savage Landor. So, to get our bearings, let's start with that name we all know and love, Jane Austen. This quote here about her final novel, Persuasion, just nails her genius, right? She was a master at exploring forgiveness, second chances, and the kind of love that lasts. Her work really captured the intricate dramas of the human heart like no one else. And you know, Persuasion is where you really see Austen at her most mature. It's not about the whirlwind courtships of her earlier books. No, this one goes deeper. It asks what happens years after a bad choice is made, after a heart gets broken, and life just keeps going. I mean, these are the themes that make her books feel so real, even today. She was brilliant at showing that delicate dance between the choices we make and the circumstances we're stuck with. It's all about the sting of regret, but also that beautiful hope of a second chance. It's a powerful idea that true affection can and does endure. Okay, so we all get it. Austen is a giant. No question. But she wasn't writing in a vacuum, you know? The world back then was buzzing with other incredible writers, a lot of whom have kind of faded from the spotlight. So it makes you wonder, who else was out there pushing the boundaries of literature at the very same time? And that, my friends, brings us to this guy, Walter Savage Landor. He was born right around the same time as Austen, and his career overlapped with hers during this incredible period of change. But while his name might not ring a bell today, his work was passionate, it was innovative, and honestly, it was unlike anything else out there.
Landor was a true original. Seriously, he wasn't writing about quiet country dramas or comedies of manners. He was a poet and a writer with this fiery spirit who was determined to carve out his own path in the Romantic era. His voice was all about intense emotion and huge intellectual curiosity.
So to really get Landor, you've got to know what made him tick. His work was absolutely steeped in the classics. We're talking ancient Greece and Rome, which gave everything he wrote this grand, epic feel. But he mixed that classical style with this raw, personal intensity that you can tell was forged in a tough life, a life that even included political exile. And above all, he was a champion of the individual, celebrating personal expression in a way that was pure, unfiltered romanticism.
All right, now we get to the really cool part, his most famous and frankly, most mind-blowing creation. If you remember only one thing about Landor after this, it has to be his incredible series, Imaginary Conversations. The concept was just pure genius. What Landor did was write conversations between famous people from history who never could have actually met. It was like he was hosting the ultimate fantasy dinner party on paper. He used these incredible pairings to explore all the biggest ideas of his time. Politics, art, morality, you name it. It was this amazing mashup of history, fiction, and philosophy.
And just look at the range of his imagination here. He'd put ancient figures like Socrates and Plato together to debate philosophy, but then he'd also stage these incredible what-if conversations between his own contemporaries, like the rival poets William Wordsworth and Lord Byron, and just let them hash out their artistic differences. It was a total intellectual playground. But don't think for a second that Imaginary Conversations was all he did. Oh, no. This guy was far from a one-hit wonder. His literary range was just incredibly broad, as you're about to see. So you've got historical dramas like Pericles and Aspasia, which dove deep into love and power in ancient Athens. Then there are his poetry collections, full of these deeply emotional poems about love, nature, and death. He also wrote these amazing prose tales that mix adventure with philosophy. And he was always returning to his first love, ancient Greece, with works like the Hellenics. The man was just incredibly prolific and versatile. And here's what's so amazing. His work can feel incredibly modern. Take Pericles and Aspasia, for instance. He portrays Aspasia not as some passive sidekick, but as a strong, intelligent, and powerful woman. I mean, think about that for a second. This was a direct challenge to the gender roles of the 1830s. It shows this progressive streak that makes his writing still feel so relevant today. So you're probably wondering, if this guy was so innovative and wrote so much, why isn't he as famous as Austen or Byron? Well, that's a great question, and it brings us to his legacy, which is a fascinating and complicated story. Here it is. This is the great paradox of Walter Savage Landor. While his public fame fizzled out, his influence absolutely did not. He became what you might call a writer's writer. You know, like your favorite band's favorite band? His bold experiments and deep philosophical questions inspired whole generations of authors who came after him. So he might not be a household name, but his fingerprints are all over the literature that followed.
And really, that's why Landor is so worth rediscovering today. Reading his work isn't just some historical exercise, it's an invitation. It's an invitation to think deeply about life's biggest questions, about what beauty is, about existence, and about the human connections that define us. He definitely makes you work for it as a reader, but the rewards are just immense.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about: Landor's story. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Who are the brilliant, innovative artists and writers working right now who might be getting overlooked by the mainstream? Who are the forgotten geniuses of our own time just waiting for us to rediscover them?